If your Social Security statement shows $1,750 a month at 62 and $2,500 a month at 67, which one leaves you better off? $2,500 is the bigger check. That part is obvious. What isn't obvious is whether waiting 5 years for it is the better choice. Because waiting until 67 doesn't only mean a larger payment later. It means going 60 months with no Social Security check at all. At $1,750 a month, that's $105,000 you never collect. And your bills don't pause during those 5 years, so that $105,000 must come from somewhere else. Claiming at 62 solves that problem, but it locks in a permanently smaller check. Not just for 5 years, but for the rest of your life, and for your spouse too after you're gone. So, the real question isn't $1,750 versus $2,500. It's whether you'd rather have money sooner or more guaranteed income later. And that depends on how much you've saved, where your health insurance comes from before Medicare, and which spouse earned more during their career. Let me walk you through an example. Dave and Karen are both 62 and retired. They have about $700,000 saved, most of it in a traditional IRA, and they spend around $45,000 a year after taxes. Dave earned more, so his gets the bigger check, about $1,750 a month right now, or $2,500 at 67. If he claims today, that's $21,000 a year, and over 5 years, that's more than $100,000. If he waits, he gets none of that, so the full $45,000 living expenses must come from savings for 5 straight years. And which account he pays for those expenses matters far more than most people expect. If you're 55 or older and working through decisions like this one, go ahead and subscribe. My goal here is to make retirement a little easier to understand, one decision at a time. Most people start by asking how long it takes the bigger check to catch up. That's a fair question, and the math is quick. Once he turns 67, he collects $30,000 a year instead of $21,000, ahead by $9,000 a year. At that rate, making up $105,000 takes about 11 and a half years, which puts him at roughly age 78 and a half. So, if Dave lives past 78 and a half, waiting brought in more. If he dies before that, claiming at 62 did. One definition, and everything here depends on it. Your full retirement age is the age Social Security treats as normal for you, and it's set by the year you were born. For Dave, it's 67, so claiming 5 years early cuts his monthly check by 30%, permanently. But here's what that break-even age doesn't tell you. It compares Social Security checks and assumes nothing else changes. In reality, the age you claim also changes how much you have to withdraw from savings, what you pay for health insurance before 65, and how much your spouse receives after you are gone. Any one of those can outweigh the checks. Start with the savings, because if Dave waits, that's the money doing the work. If he claims at 62, Social Security covers $21,000 of their $45,000 in spending, so they only withdraw about $24,000 a year from the IRA. If he waits, the full $45,000 comes out of savings, actually closer to $46,000 because IRA withdrawals are taxable and they have to pull extra to cover the tax. Over 5 years, that's about $126,000 withdrawn if he claims, versus about $245,000 if he waits. But the size of the withdrawal isn't the real danger. The timing is. Say the market falls 25% during Dave's first year of retirement and he needs $46,000 to live on. He has to sell stocks while they're down. Those shares are permanently gone. When the market recovers, he no longer owns them, so that money never recovers with it. Planners call that sequence of returns risk. All it means is that the order of your investment returns matters, not just the average. A bad year at 62, while you're actively withdrawing, does far more damage than the identical bad year at 80. Claiming at 62 reduces that exposure directly, because Dave withdraws about half as much during the exact year he's most vulnerable. That's a real argument for claiming early, and it's the strongest one there is. Though it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to sell stocks every month for 5 years while you wait. Some retirees keep a year or two of planned withdrawals somewhere steadier. Cash, high-yield savings, short-term treasuries. And leave the rest invested, so a drop at 63 doesn't force them to sell into it. Early on, claiming at 62 leave more in the portfolio simply because they're withdrawing so much less. But that reverses. Once the larger check starts at 67, waiting means they need far less out of savings every year for the rest of their lives, and over 2 or 3 decades that adds up and passes the head start. By their mid-80s, the couple who waited has substantially more money left, and the gap keeps widening. So the two choices aren't really early money versus late money. They're protection against a bad decade at the start of retirement versus protection against a long life at the end of it. Now, the part almost nobody covers, and for anyone retiring before 65, it can be worth more than everything so far. Medicare doesn't start until 65. So if you retire at 62, you need health insurance for 3 years, and most people buy it through the government marketplace. Healthcare.gov or your state's version. The government pays part of your premium, and how much depends entirely on the income you report that year. Here's what catches people. The marketplace counts your entire Social Security benefit as income, including the part the IRS doesn't tax. On your tax return, maybe half is taxable, sometimes none of it. On your health insurance application, all of it counts. So if Dave claims at 62, he's adding $21,000 of income to that application every year until 65, which can shrink their subsidy and raise what they pay each month, which sounds like a solid reason to wait, until you look at what happens when he does. If Dave waits, they pull $46,000 out of the traditional IRA instead, and every dollar of an IRA withdrawal counts as income on that same application. So claiming shows about $45,000 of income. Waiting shows about $46,000. Their health insurance costs them almost exactly the same either way. That's the part to remember. Delaying Social Security only lowers your premium if the money you live on doesn't count as your income. Cash you've already paid tax on, a regular brokerage account, or a Roth IRA. If a traditional IRA is your only source, waiting does nothing for your health insurance at all, and it can get expensive fast. In 2026, the expanded subsidies expired and an older rule came back. Go above $62,600 for one person or $84,600 for a couple, and you don't get a smaller subsidy. You get nothing. Someone a few $100s over that line can lose thousands for the year, which is why an IRA withdrawal or a Roth conversion that looks harmless on your tax return can be costly before 65. There's also something else the math can't measure between 62 and 67. These are probably the healthiest 5 years for most people. At 62, you can travel, hike, get on a plane without planning around it. At 72, some still can and some can't, and nobody knows in advance which one they'll be. For some people, that settles the whole decision. Think about someone who spent 40 years doing physical work. His back hurts every morning, he's on blood pressure medication, and both his parents died before 75. Telling him the break-even age is 78 and a half isn't useful? He has good reason to doubt he'll get there. And even if he does, the money does more for him at 63 than at 83. He should probably claim at 62, not because he planned badly, but because he understands his own situation better than a chart does. The same goes if you're carrying high-interest debt, or if 5 years of living on your savings would use up most of what you have. In those cases, claiming early may make perfect sense, and the rest of these factors are simply things worth knowing before you decide. Now, the part of this decision that moves the most money, and if you're married, it may have very little to do with you. The usual argument for claiming early is life expectancy. Men only live to about 76, so why wait? That figure is measured from birth. It includes everyone who died as an infant, in a car accident at 30, of cancer at 51. Dave already made it past all of it. Once you've reached 62, the average is about 82 for a man and 85 for a woman. And for a married couple, neither of those is the number that matters. What matters is the chance at least one of you is still alive. For a 62-year-old couple, there's an 82% chance one of them reaches 85 and a 57% chance one reaches 90. Here's why that changes what Dave should do. When one spouse dies, the survivor doesn't keep collecting both checks. They keep the larger one, and the smaller one stops. Dave collects the larger check. So after he dies, Karen's Social Security income for the rest of her life is whatever he locked in. $1,750 a month or $2,500, adjusted for inflation. If she outlives him by 12 years, she spends 12 years living on a decision he made at 62. And if he claims early, Social Security can permanently cap what she's allowed to receive as a widow. Most people find this backwards. If Dave's health is poor and Karen's is good, that's a reason for him to not claim early. His shorter life expectancy makes her longer one more important, not less. This is the one part of the decision nobody can fix afterward. One more thing worth knowing. Waiting gives you more control over your taxable income before Social Security starts, which helps if you're considering moving money from a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. And that matters even more before 65, because the same income that drives your tax bill also sets your health insurance subsidy. Just remember that claiming isn't easy to undo. Once you start, your only way out is canceling within 12 months and repaying everything you've received. So let's put it together. Claiming at 62 gives you $105,000 during those first 5 years. It means taking much less from savings when a market drop could do the most damage, and it puts money in your hands while you're most likely to be healthy enough to use it. The trade-off is a permanently smaller check, less income for a surviving spouse, and less flexibility with taxes and health insurance before 65. Waiting until 67 flips those trade-offs. You give up 5 years of checks and may have to pull far more from savings in the meantime. But once the larger benefit starts, you need much less from your portfolio each year, and that check becomes more valuable the longer either of you is alive. Neither one is right on its own. What decides is what's more important for your household. So, ask yourself these 4 questions. First, can you cover 5 years of expenses without being forced to sell investments in a down market? And which account is that money coming from? Second, are you buying your own health insurance before 65? If so, work out your reported income under each choice, because that's what sets your premium. Third, are you the higher earner in your marriage? If you are, you're not deciding your own income. You're deciding your spouse's income for however long she outlives you. Fourth, is there something about your health, your work, or your cash flow that makes 5 more years of waiting a poor use of the time you have? And one thing to keep in mind through all of it, waiting only works if your finances can support the wait. A bad market, a major expense, or a change in your health can force you to claim earlier than planned. And then you've skipped years of checks and still ended up with a reduced benefit. Make sure the plan can survive real life, not just a spreadsheet. Before you decide, pull your actual estimate from SSA.gov, figure out exactly what would fund those 5 years, and if you're under 65, estimate your marketplace income both ways. Dave and Karen still haven't decided. What changed is that Karen stopped arguing about how long Dave is going to live once she understood this is mostly about her own income after 85. And Dave stopped, assuming waiting was automatically safer once he saw where the money would come from. And that's really what this comes down to. The right age isn't sitting on a chart somewhere. It depends on what each choice does to your savings, your health insurance, your taxes, and your spouse. If this helped make the decision a little clearer, please like the video and subscribe. We have a lot more coming on Social Security, healthcare, and the retirement decisions that get much easier once someone walks you through the numbers. I am Allison. I read the fine print so you don't have to. I'll see you in the next video.